Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my review of this week's episode of Van Helsing on SYFY, which was Season 4, Episode 10, called Together Forever.
I'm Sylvia Saska.
And I'm Jen Saska.
And we're the Saska sisters. Get a part of this.
Bloody Jacob here, meeting my icon, Catherine Isabel here.
Spread the little butt down there. It's Blood E with 2 E's.
Bloody Jacob, for sexy, awesome, exclusive content, and actually a for real friend of the Saskas.
Yeah, we love him. Support his stuff.
Please support your local artists. Please.
Yeah.
Actually pretty on time with this week's review, which always makes me feel a bit better. So I got home from work and watched a movie, so it took a couple hours, and then what do you know, about like 1:30, if not a little bit before, it was available on the SYFY app, so I finally took advantage of that and watched this week's episode as soon as I could. And we only have 3 episodes left this season, you guys know I've been, mixed about, certain aspects of the season, how much time they've given to Violet and to Jack, how it's felt like sort of a spin-off show, and parts of the concentration have worked for me to greater extents than others. But we do gotta know something I should have acknowledged, and I feel kind of rude about it, is that, yes, the lack of Vanessa is bothering me. But you do gotta remember that Kelly Overton actually did have a second baby recently, so that does explain some of Vanessa's absence in this season. Kind of a bummer from a fan perspective, but just like season 2, it kind of explains why they had to sort of sprinkle her in, throughout the season instead of giving her like as big of a stretch as maybe the character would have normally or should have got. But I do expect to see her either at the end of the next episode, or at least within 12 and 13 to close off the season. Still hoping to hell we get a renewal. Just with how good this cast and crew is, they really better let them ride the story out as long as they want. 5th and final season, or whatever they have in mind, please, SYFY, let it happen. And again, with as lukewarm as I've been about some of the newer character bits this season, I do think this episode was a good one in terms of making him fit in a little more, and just kind of solidifying him more as character concentrations and leads for the show. Now that they're going over Vanessa, certainly, but I think this made me feel a little bit better about Violet, and I'm getting to like Jack a good bit as well. I probably do actually prefer Jack between the two personally, but I do like Violet's dynamic with Julius, and it's good to see Julius, Alex Ponovic come up again. I thought it was fitting that he was nicknamed Yeti, by the Ringmaster, or whatever you want to call him. I'm thinking that's a nod to his work in War, for Planet of the Apes. I've been a diehard wrestling fan all my life, so it was actually, kind of good to see Paul White, the Big Show, pop up in this. I had known that, before the season started, and it was good to finally see his role, which there was a little bit more to than I expected. I mean, he had a good bit of menace and meanness to him when they're first introduced to him, but when Violet was able to get lucky, and he is sort of stabbed or impaled on this double-sided knife. We find out that he was promised, okay, 20 wins and you get to leave and try and find your family. So really, he wasn't just like the straightforward, crazed, gigantic maniac like he was initially presented. He had to sort of immerse himself into that mindset. He had to probably get through killing so many people to try and get the chance to find his family. But then he is unfortunately executed by the Ringmaster's men anyway. So pretty good acting from Paul White there, especially towards the end, for what, ended up being a brief role, but I do think he did a good job with it. Julius coaching Violet on as well. Thought it was good they didn't make Violet, just like straight up beat Big Show, or Carnage straight up. I thought they played it smart with that. And then we have, before we get to the rest of that, with Ivory and Scab and everything, we also had Axel actually meet up with Jack, because a sign ended up pointing him to her, when he's driving along the road. Jack doesn't really know what to make of him at first, of course, but then, he mentions Vanessa and they make a connection there. She kind of explains the whole, how Vanessa's actually her mother, to a certain way anyway. And Axel ends up liking her spunk and her spirit, reminding him of Vanessa, and I like how they're kind of reminiscing about it there and what Axel had to say about her. That was it got me a little bit in the feels, really respectful stuff, so I really like that. I do think Jack and Axel do fit together, kind of the survivalist hunter, more practical fighters of the group, so I like that as well. And then yes, of course, Scab and Ivory end up coming for Violet as well. It was pretty satisfying seeing him slaughtering some of those goons after what we had seen him do in the episode. Again, I love Ivory's savagery, which very much changes by the end of the episode, which we'll also talk about in a minute. But a big part of this episode was seeing the fight between Scab and Julius, Alex Panovic and Roland. Holy shit. I was not expecting Scab to be killed off, I gotta say. I mean, I was, in a way, surprised, the character had lived that long, but he's, kind of been built up so much, with his team up and partnership with Ivory. So I really wasn't sure when or if they're gonna, but Roland, he just brought such a signature presence to the show. I can't say enough about that. He's shown, like many of the cast and crew members, but him especially, he's shown me so much support and kindness, since I've started reviewing the show all the way back at the first episode in season 1. I am beyond thankful for that. And he always brought, a signature presence and just a way about him, an energy and a charisma, passion, behind his mannerisms. You talk about, Walker School or whatever, but what Roland does, is like the bar for just how crazy a vampire can be, and it definitely takes a lot of effort, a lot of energy, and I'll definitely check him out on whatever project he gets into next. But the fight between him and Julius is good, fitting that would end for him there. Bringing up the conflict in season 3 where he killed, I forget the character's name, but the woman that Julius had started to care for briefly at that outpost. And Julius is a little bit stronger now, with some parts, being, parts, some attributes for him being built up, just like some of the other, some of the others of those tied to Vanessa and everything. So Julius was able to hit him quite a bit more effectively in this, and so some solid choreography there. And then Julius does finally decapitate Scab, not really giving him any sort of a piece of resolution or satisfaction. Good clean decapitation there. And of course Ivory freaks out while she's fighting Violet. She does manage to slash Violet's throat though, which I thought was good, because again, Violet has her place, I'm not denying that, but I never wanted to see her be able to beat Ivory or anything. We've seen Ivory be far too skilled and just again savage to be beaten by Violet, at least after only a couple encounters. So it's good to actually see Ivory basically win that fight before she sort of goes blind rage after Julius there. But then we see it actually be a setup, and Violet bites Ivory, turning Ivory human. I had thought about that some time ago. Okay, who would be the most interesting characters to see, turn human that haven't? And Jennifer Cheon's Ivory is, right near the top. Actually, really, really nicely acted by her in that scene when she first turns, the way she's looking at him. And I thought it was actually, a couple beautiful moments there between her and, Alex Ponovic, Julius. Julius saying, he knows what it's like, and, he's trying to, calm her down a bit. Then she pledges her loyalty to Van Helsing's, Vanessa and everything. So really nicely acted there. I was not expecting that right there. But I think it was a good call, because Ivory has become a fan favorite on the show. So I thought it was good to, when it's all, when the shit's all going down, decide to turn her instead of killing her. I thought that was a good move. She could be a pretty good ally, I think. Maybe some, could bring her Michonne type of skills. Even though she'll have more compassion as a human, I think she'll be able to tap into it and find her balance. She'll have to pretty quickly here, and I think she'll be of good help. So it'll be interesting to see her as part of the group now. Axel and Julia seeing each other again is good. Overall good episode. I think this was the best Vanessa-less episode this season. Just a really enjoyable one, sort of that classic, sci-fi edgy horror premise, with, them having to fight for entertainment. We see that it's actually being watched, by some sort of, group of people who have been untouched by vampires, supposedly, by this, Madam President. Was she really the president? Maybe, not, probably not. Then again, it can't get much worse than the, President Trump that we have now in the real world, but that's a different thing altogether. Got a bit of a different angle there, and we're still coming up on the pages, to hopefully rescue Vanessa and everything. They both have a feeling that she's still alive. Again, hoping to see that by the end of the next episode, maybe episode 12, and obviously, hopefully we'll have Vanessa back at least for the finale. And then please keep tweeting about Van Helsing, guys. Hashtag Van Helsing. Hashtag renew Van Helsing. Let's push, man. It needs a season 5. Alright, if I had to rate this episode, I'm giving it about an 8.8, 8.9 out of 10. Let me know what you guys thought about it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.